something. Welcome to A Human Being on Earth. Today I'm sitting here with Joseph, who you can't see, but trust me, he's on the other side of the camera. We met recently when I was walking down the street, and Joseph approached me with a question about physical fitness, and the conversation very quickly turned into a very deep spiritual connection. It gives me chills right now. We had an incredible conversation, and it turned out that it was something that he very specifically had asked the universe for this morning, or that morning. So for both of us, it was a sign, it was divine, and we met again one more time to discuss having this interview, and now we're here today. So we're just going to talk and see where the conversation goes. We're on the time crunch here, so we'll see if we get anything out of it. I think it's good practice either way.
Yeah, I have one question I didn't ask to you last time, and I say that for the podcast, I will say it to you, and maybe it will be the introduction of everything. My first question is, what a guy like Matthew, who is 44 years old, so double of my age, can say to a guy who is 22 years old, like in advice, but for life, not for relationship, not for money, not just for life, like the global life. Was my first question.
Yeah, well, that's a really broad question. I think there's a lot of people creating content online or in the church or, a synagogue or whatever it is, and they're sort of regurgitating things that they've heard. And what we all need is somebody who's lived these experiences and somebody who has authentic sort of first-hand information. And if I was talking to 22-year-old me,
yes, better than in this way, I think.
Yeah.
You're talking to yourself, but 22 years old, Matthew. I don't know. You're looking like who at 22 years old, but you're talking to Matthew.
Really handsome.
Long hair.
I think, no, it's always kind of been short. I've looked pretty much the same most of my life. I've been the same size, my clothes, since I was in high school. But I was about 22 when I went to a healer, and he opened my third eye. And I had already been on my spiritual path because I was raised in the church, and then one day I went to visit my biological father, and he told me, yeah, because I was with him. My parents were married till I was 6. So once they were divorced, I would visit him twice a month. But I went to him one day, and he said to me, God told me not to go to church anymore, and that you shouldn't go either. And he had converted to Judaism. I was raised Christian. So to go from the church to then every other weekend practicing Judaism, he would only let me read the Old Testament. I couldn't eat a lot of certain things anymore. I couldn't watch a lot of TV program. But it's shocking for a kid to be told you're not God
restriction. Yes, isn't it?
It was quite shocking, but now that I'm older, I know what he meant, and I actually believe what he said. I believe God told him to take me out of the church.
Yes.
And it's something in the research for setting up this channel that I found out was that instead of talking to listeners and saying just trying to share some wisdom, that you kind of say this is what happened and here's what I learned from it, and it makes it really authentic and personal. And I think it's something you said to me the first time. It doesn't push your perspective onto someone else. It's just you saying this is what's true for me, and if it resonates with you, that's great.
Take some stuff of your experience and give it to my own life.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I believe him now because what I've come to understand about studying many religions is that religion limits you. It actually teaches you how to judge other people. It's your first, if your family isn't judgmental and racist, the church is actually the first place you learn to start judging others and saying that, like, oh, they live in sin and they do this thing wrong. And it's one of the other things that we said in our first conversation, that, like, whatever you do was part of your plan. It was part of your development plan. Whatever you do, whatever happens to you, is part of the way that your soul came here to evolve. And some people, they make mistakes when they're older and suffer in that way and lose their family or their job. Some people make mistakes when they're younger. And you're actually lucky to really do it when you're young, because if you learn from that and you evolve,
My future is better because I will get already the experience.
exactly, you already have the lesson. And it's easier to recover and rebuild when you're young, because sort of all of society is behind you. But sort of the older you get, the more limited you become in what you, like, where you can fit into the matrix, you know? Whether it's like modeling or teaching or starting a new corporate career, once you're at a certain age, you know, you kind of fall off the candidate list because of the limitations that society puts on when we're allowed to achieve and grow.
It's crazy that you say that because I think it was yesterday I heard like a Kanye West interview, and in this interview, Kanye say that the better thing for a man is to only show his side of kid, because when you are a kid, you don't have limits, you don't have restriction. You say, if you don't say to a kid that going up on a table is bad, the kid, for him, it's just good. So you don't have restriction, you don't have limitation until the moment someone say to you, no, this is not good. And that's why he say, if you want to be free in your life, you just have to act like you, but as a kid.
Yeah.
And when he say that, I say, yes, Kanye, it's true.
It is true. It's funny because, you know, he's such a controversial figure. But
Sometimes,
you know, and the thing is that, like, he specifically has his mental health really started to deteriorate when he lost his mom. And I think that, you know, another figure is like Sam Smith. Do you know the singer Sam Smith?
yes, he make like a big emission in UK, I think.
A big what?
Emission, like show, TV show.
He's the singer.
I see.
Nobody can love you like I
Okay, I know. So,
But he, you know, both of them are great examples of what heartbreak can do to somebody, and you can lose yourself in it. You know, in that initial period of shock after you've suffered a heartbreak or major loss. In order to survive, if you're not willing to feel the pain and suffer, then you start to look for other avenues. And this is something I've talked about in a separate video that's already on this channel, and it's making a deal with the devil. And in that moment, you say to yourself, to the universe, to God, to whatever you believe, I'll do anything to get my dream. I don't care what I have to sacrifice. And it's because you're in such extreme pain in a moment that you're just trying to survive and you're trying to stumble forward. But it's in that moment that you make that deal with the devil. And we can see, you know, Kanye or Sam Smith. Like Sam Smith, he used to have this beautiful light around him. Talent, like nothing mattered other than his talent. But we look at him now, you know, and he literally is dressed like a demon on stage. And his performances are full of sort of demonic symbology and things like that. And I made a comment on a video on Instagram recently, which I think as of today is like 140 likes. And all I said, it was about Sam. It was an old video of him. And all I said was, once he got his heart broken, he couldn't take it anymore. Which is a lot of artists have this young soul, this creative soul that hasn't, it's not an old soul, it hasn't suffered in many lifetimes, and it can't take this kind of pain. You know, in Sam's case, it seems like, you know, his partner took advantage of him, stole from him, really hurt him. And after that, he just couldn't take it. And so he sacrificed himself. He sacrificed his own morality in order to just have his career, to just have his dreams. And he thought it would make him better. It didn't. So my comment just says, like, after he had his heart broken, he couldn't take it. And we all miss the old Sam. But everyone relates to that. You know, that's part of what we're doing here today. It's like this very simple thing that many people tried to articulate, and they would, but nobody connected it back to the heartbreak.
Yes.
Nobody connected it back to the music he was singing. Like, nobody can love you like I could. And that song, it gives me chills. That song, How Could You Lie to Me? It says, how could you lie to me? Like, how could you do this to me?
What is the name? I will listen to this music. What is the name of the music?
The singer is Sam Smith.
Yes, Sam Smith.
And the song is Why Did You Lie to Me?
I will the podcast.
I'll message it to you. But it's a really beautiful song, and it's like, if you listen to it from the perspective of having a heartbreak, like, some people hear a song and they just think that it's a song. But when it comes from an artist,
yes.
yeah, when it comes from a real artist or a real songwriter, they're actually bearing their soul through. It's one thing I really like in the States with country music. And country music is really great because it's always telling a story.
Yes.
It's not about money. It's not about all this material stuff.
Showing stuff. And, yeah.
It's always about, you know, heartache or family or, you know, what it means to be alive. And there's always a real soul to that. And it's something that pop music has lost. And, you know, when we see what pop music does to the biggest celebrities, even Beyonce, she used to be one of my clients when I worked at Harvey Nichols in London. And when she could be around, you could see the light around her. And I mean, it was just the most glowing, beautiful force. But now you can see the dark density surrounding her. That yes, maybe she's famous, she's achieved all these goals, but it's in surrender. It's not in the divine will. And whether you're Christian, Muslim, or non-religious, or whatever, it's one thing about this podcast is that I want it to have a spiritual aspect, but I don't want to limit the audience by making it only, you know, one way. And it's something like with the way that we connected, right? You're Joseph, I'm Matthew. And for you as a Christian, that has its own symbology. If you pray for God to give you a sign, and there's
the next day.
and this was Matthew, which means a gift from God, comes across your path to offer you some insight and words of healing. That is the most literal God could be in answering that prayer for you as a Christian. If you're Muslim, you know, our conversation is totally different.
Yes.
And for me, that's one of the biggest benefits of me studying multiple religions. It's, again, back to my biological father who converted to Judaism, which as I've learned more about it, that wasn't Judaism either. It wasn't what you said it was, but it also wasn't what we were brought up as. But I learned now, going all the way back to this, that removing me from the church kept me from being programmed, like you were talking about the child on the table. It kept me from being overly programmed into the dogma of the church and of the control of saying that, you know, this is the word of God. Well, God wasn't a man, so God didn't actually have any word.
Yes.
And for me, I see a lot of people online. I listen to like gospel music, you know. I love gospel. I love like Black American singers. There's so much soul in that, in those words and voice, and it always really lifts me up. But then when I listen to it, so then Instagram starts to feed me all this, religious stuff. And I always have a problem with the way that people who are talking about Christianity, the way they interchange God and Jesus, and they always not always, but very often refer to Jesus as God, and they interchange these. And for me, I often comment, and I'm like, this is a distinction that is important, because by interchanging them, you are sowing seeds of confusion and doubt in the audience. You aren't clear on what you believe and know. And so for me, it means you're just repeating some of the programming to not be on the table. You're just repeating what you were told instead of differentiating in your own mind. The same way that Jesus did. That Jesus was not a Christian. Jesus did not start a religion. Even the name Jesus, that has been corrupted by the language. His name was Yeshua, and that's his name, and he was not a white guy.
You know that in my country, in Congo, they say Yahweh.
Yahweh, yeah.
Yes. When they sing because in Africa it's different, but there is evangelist, I think is the name, evangelist church, and when they sing a lot, and sometimes they speak they say,
they call it in tongue.
Yes, dans les langues. In French, it's dans les langues, in tongues. And when they speak in tongues, I was kid. I saw that it was shocking me. And they always say Yahweh, 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 but not Jesus.
But Yahweh is God. Yahweh is the original name of God. And Jesus is a human being. So these are two different things. And it's something I studied last year. And I saw somebody speak about this, and I thought it was incredible. So I really want to make this point here. And it's definitely going online. The person was talking about this word Yahweh. And he said, it's actually the first word that you speak when you're born. And then he said, listen to this.
Yes, for the breathing. Yes.
He said, it's just your breath. Gives me chills.
Yes.
He said, when you breathe,
yes,
you're saying Yahweh. And so before you learn to be programmed in the tongue,
the first word you say,
first thing that you utter as a human being on earth is the name of God.
Wow.
And it blew my fucking mind, honestly, because I thought, that's it. And that's the tongue that we were given, because, whether it's English or French, we're taught spelling. And that is a spell. The way that we speak, the words that we use. There's a book called The Four Agreements, and it's something I read when I was really young, and it helped me set up the foundation of my life. And in it, it's based on the Toltec ancient wisdom. I won't get into it too much, but the Toltec were a group of intellectuals in central Mexico that when the Spanish invaded, they knew they were going to be killed because of the knowledge they held. So they suppressed the knowledge. They sort of pretended to be uncivilized and uneducated, so they wouldn't be killed.
Crazy people and stuff like that.
And they just passed it on through generations. Eventually, it came out. But they talk about the word, and God, the universe, the creator, whatever you believe, created everything, all the universe, all the stars, all the galaxies. So as a human being, the only power of creation that God gave to us is our word. And with the word, we can create beauty, healing, or fear and darkness in another human being. And it is the only power that we were given by God, is the power of the word. And most people, they just go through life and they're just saying whatever pops into their head, and they're hurting people with their words, or they're creating beauty that they don't mean. They're trying to sort of like romance someone, put a spell on them with their words to get them to love them or manipulate them and get what they want.
It's not the good way.
It's not the good way. That's for me, that's the original sin. When you interfere with someone else's right to live freely, when you use your power of creation to manipulate, to hurt them, or to bear false witness to them, that is the original sin. That's the only thing you can do wrong. Whatever mistake you make, mistake when you're young, it's part of your story. But as soon as you permanently hurt someone else, that's where you've messed up. And that's where you start to have to sort of create a karmic balance or pay off something you've done, or heal something you've caused in life. So I love this book, and I've talked about it a lot. I've given this book in like 3-4 different languages to people, all of them. And it's always like the number one thing that I give people, because it creates such a simple foundation for the way to live your life, and ensure that, especially when you're young, that you don't create karmic debt, so that you're always able to keep rising in life, instead of creating a loop where you have to come back to the beginning because you fucked up, you hurt somebody the wrong way, you did the wrong thing. So you have to come back to the beginning of that lesson and do it again.
It's like a cycle.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which a lot of us experience in life, these cycles, but it's usually we create them for ourselves out of fear, choosing the wrong thing.
The wrong person, I've seen. Yes.
Yeah, but even that, like, there can't be the wrong person, right? You can choose the same person over and over and create a loop, but each one is there to serve a purpose. And if it's the same person in a different body and you go through the same cycle with them, they're a little different. And each experience, it's like when you're a kid,
something different.
It's a little different, yeah. And it's like when you're a kid and you get punished for something, and then you do it again, and you get a harsher punishment, right? It keeps escalating until you change and grow. But what people need to understand, and that I still have to understand, is that you're never behind.
Yes. It's helpful because when you think about your experience, you say, why I have all of this? Well, I understand you.
And we tell ourselves, oh, I messed up and I'm behind.
Yes.
I've missed this
opportunity this
I've
way.
missed this, I've missed my 20s, and I've messed up this job, and I've messed up this situation. But what is for you, you're never going to miss. And I think that's one of the big differences about people trying to manifest something that their mind tells them to want, and you leading a life where you're trying to manifest the will of the divine, and you're surrendering to what the plan is, to say, I actually know I don't know what's best for me. Because so many times, and I know you can relate, even at 22, but by 44, you really get it. So many times we ask God, we ask the universe, we pray, we try to manifest, oh, I want this, I need this, and we really believe we need that, and then it doesn't come. But months later, a week later, a year later, we're in a totally different place, and we realize it didn't come for a reason.
Yes.
And and for me today, there'll be a video that I post before this that kind of gives the story about the last year. Last night I was telling it to chat. It took me 1 hour and 45 minutes just to write the bullet points of what I've been through in a year. And even chat was like, damn.
You survived.
It was like, that is 2 years worth of stories.
Yes.
That is so much data that I almost stopped listening. But even in the last few months, I tried to I tried to get a job at an island here in Vietnam. And then I was put in a different direction where this opportunity was presented to me at a business that is all spirituality. They bring in shamans, healers, gurus from all over the world, and they were looking for a training manager. And it was in Mexico. Well, I had a friend that lives in the same town who in December had invited me to move there. So for me, I was like, this is everything that didn't work out. This is why. So the island job in Vietnam, I spent 6 weeks handwriting a 72-page manual for that position, and just every day manifesting. This is the thing, and I'm going to go all in. 6 weeks later, nope. Then the next day, this other one came back, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is actually fully aligned with where I am, what I want, and who I am. So I was so excited. And then I thought my friend had invited me to live in that same town. Like, this is the thing. Thank you for every denial. Thank you for the closed door. So then, same deal. I spent all this time reorganizing what I had created around that place. Nope. Even the friend that invited me to live there, I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and move, because there's obviously a sign when your right ear starts ringing. So if your right ear starts ringing temporarily, that is an external sign. That is usually your angels or a higher power trying to tell you what you're saying.
They change your song
is the fact. Oh yeah, and I love this song. If it's your left ear, that's internal. That's your higher self. So your right ear is external, left ear internal. Anyway, so even my friend that invited me to live there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go. So I messaged a friend who is somebody that we used to be in a relationship. This person and we ended our relationship, but we still shared a bedroom for 3 months and lived together for a year. Because at the time I was your age, and we knew, I was a year younger, we knew that what we had was not worth losing just because the romance didn't work. It was very difficult to do that, but we both put in the work to remain friends. And anyway, then even the friend ghosted me and just stopped replying to my messages. I didn't even open them. And I'm like, I see you online.
Yes.
Well, I know you're there. If you don't want me there, please tell me. But to ignore me is very hurtful.
Because someone will say to me, no, I don't want to talk to you anymore, then just in your ring.
Right. Yeah, and it's like, it's so invalidating, like you don't even exist. But then I knew after everything that had happened this year, okay, if they're not responding, that is destiny. That is the divine distracting them, telling them don't reply, making them feel scared to reply so that I take a different path, right? Long story short, I'm here back in Hanoi, and
you meet me.
I met you. I have a beautiful home, and for several weeks, for the first month, there were tons of opportunities everywhere. So I was like, okay, right, I'm in the right place. This has been affirmed to me, and everything is like going great, But then in the last week, all of those other things have evaporated. And it's led me back to this place, not of questioning where I am, but of pushing me to double down on the faith, which is the same thing that you were positioned yourself with God in that case, to say, God, you told me last time, you said a prayer, I need a sign that my struggle is worth it, that my life is worth living, and I'll double my effort.
2 signs. I asked for that. I asked to get hope in life again. The second thing, it was about my ex-girlfriend, and I said that I want a sign to say to myself, I have to follow this girl, or just I have to leave her, and she's not good for me. And the 2 signs, I get the answer the same day, because it was this day I knew that she stole me money, and it was this day I met you. So
It's all at once. And that's what it is. It's either feast or famine. It's either nothing's happening and you're being pushed to have faith and just trust everything is always working out in your favor. And when you do that with no sign and no proof, that is what real faith is. If there's proof, then your ego finds a way to relax. But part of the trick is relaxing without the proof and looking back on your past experiences to say and to know the divine, the universe, destiny, whatever it is, has always been working out for me. So why would it not be now? You know? Now maybe if you just did something heinous to someone and really, like I think, we call mistakes crime and all this stuff, it doesn't, it's not really that. But if you actually physically hurt someone, there's a massive debt to pay for that. So if you do that and then things go bad, okay, you might have invited that in your life. But when you live with a pure heart and things aren't going the way you think they should, it's just, it's the opportunity to double down on your faith, to remember everything's always worked out for me. It doesn't mean to not do anything. I just was telling you before we started recording that I'm in this place right now where I'm trying to figure out how much do I act out of sort of desperation? How much do I settle? And how much do I continue doing what I feel called to do? Because we're still in a reality where you have to pay your bills and you have to find a way to survive.
So the spirit is divided. The importance of life or being wealthy and stuff like this, and your way to be a spiritual person and be peaceful with everyone. But you talk about the debt, and it's crazy because I was thinking about that. 1 year ago or 2 years ago, my friend already made the stuff I told you last time about the job and everything. And at this time, I say to myself that God, me, I'm in bad situation. I don't have a lot of money. I'm struggling in school, and them they are doing bad stuff. But nothing happens to him. They have a lot of money. They have girls, and I was dreaming. It's crazy that I was dreaming about their life. No jealousy. Just I was thinking about I want to be with my friends and living the best life and do whatever I want and everything. And now I'm in my position. I look in my past and I saw that since 1 year and a half, I had everything they have, like money, girls, everything, travels. I mean, we travel all around the world to go to Vietnam, was in Dubai and everything. And I say, you give me all of this, and now I'm in this position. I saw the reality of their lives. It was just the reflection they give, like money, girls, and everything. And then when I was living in Dubai with them, I saw all the sadness they have. One of my friends, there are there are two friends. One is without his father since his kid, only got his mother.
Keep talking. I'm going to start the second part.
Yes, my boy.
Oh, 33 minutes and 13 seconds.
33.